You're tuned in to the Bleav in Arizona podcast. Hello, Bear Down believers, and welcome into the postgame show. That was a rough one, if you bleed the red and blue. Hopefully this will be a little cathartic for you. I'm Matt Reynoldson, host of the Bleav in Arizona podcast, and it's been about a week since we've talked. Been trying to get things together in our new setup. If you're one of our YouTube viewers, you may notice things are a little bit differently. New apartment, new setup, and finally today, new Wi-Fi, so we can finally get things back rolling with the Bleav in Arizona podcast. And was hoping to get live with you to get this post-game reaction of an Arizona win, a big-time program-cementing Arizona win in Manhattan, Kansas. Instead, a 31-7 beatdown by the K-State Wildcats of the 20th-ranked Arizona Wildcats. U of A almost certainly going to be tumbling out of the poll after that one. I've got plenty of takes on this one, plenty of takeaways. Going to try not to overreact too much because it is just a few minutes after this one, a few minutes after the game. But before we get to all of the analysis of Arizona's 31-7 loss to KSU, I want to remind you to please subscribe to the show over on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, including TuneIn, as well as Bleav.com. That's Bleav in Arizona. And the YouTube versions of all of these podcasts will always be up on my page at Matt_Reynoldson. All right, let's get into it. It started off pretty well. Arizona reeling off a 7.5-minute scoring drive that spanned 14 plays right out of the gate. 73 yards, 7 runs, 7 passes. The balance was there. It looked like Dino Babers had been saving this level of balance, had been saving what we saw from Quali Conley on a first down rushing basis, on just a game-by-game basis, the short passing, obviously your fair amount of sprinkle of number 4, Teteroa McMillan in the game, but it really just seemed so balanced. It seemed so well planned. And what they say about a game and about an offensive game plan is that your first 15 plays, you save about 10 to 15 plays that are your script for the opening drive. Dino Babers had a script. Arizona used 14 of those plays on the opening drive and chewed up half the first quarter on a scoring march that spanned, like I said, that's 73 yards. Quali Conley was great throughout the drive. Arizona converted a 4th down and short. Teteroa McMillan making some big plays. Conley, though, punching it in for a 1-yard touchdown run. Arizona up 7-0 on the road. And if you bleed red and blue, you were probably feeling pretty good at this point. It just didn't last long. It just did not last long. I mean, that was such a fleeting feeling because you saw Kansas State answer with pretty much the exact same thing. A 15-play scoring drive, 8 runs, 7 passes, a 4th and short converted. It was almost identical first quarter for these teams. Arizona looked like it was settling in for a heavyweight fight, settling in for a bout. But what have we learned about this Arizona team? Or I guess, what have we seen from this Arizona team in the first 2 games that maybe gave you pause in predicting the Cats to win this game? It's that this team doesn't seem that ready to throw blows in a heavyweight fight, specifically not against a team that is as strong on the offensive and defensive lines as Kansas State is. And we saw that, throughout. Arizona went into half down 14-7, but that was pure luck, given all of the major issues that happened in the second quarter. After the quarter break, Arizona punts it away. They get a stop, get the ball back, punt it away again. Oh, look at that. No. Sorry. Actually, it was the first punt immediately after that dud of a drive. And what do? Tyler Loop bounces. Tyler Loop punting the ball because Michael Salgado Medina was apparently injured, according to the broadcast. Danny Gonzalez, the special teams coordinator, didn't want to roll with Jordan Forbes, who punted last week against NAU. So they go with their All-American kicker to punt in this huge spot, in this huge game situation. I know it's a non-conference game, but still a huge situation. And Tyler Loop puts it short, little line driver, perfect end-over-end bounce right into Colorado transfer and Kansas State running back and electric speedster Dylan Edwards' hands. And what does one of the best special teams programs in the Football Bowl subdivision do? Just return it for a 70-plus yard punt return touchdown. Arizona was behind the 8 ball at that point. Okay, response time, right? U of A drives down the field. The Cats looking good, driving into Kansas State territory again. And then Noah Fifita sees Malachi Riley late. Riley backpedals, thinking the ball's going to come right to him. Oh, look, coverage comes over. Well-coached defensive team. Interception in the end zone for Noah Fifita. So then things start rolling a little bit downhill. But the defense gets a stop, forces a missed field goal. Okay, you're still feeling okay as an Arizona fan. They don't capitalize on the following drive. Offense a little bit disjointed. Again, you feel like NAU may have exposed some things last week. So Arizona punts it back to K-State with just about 2 minutes left on the first half clock. And another break for the U of A because K-State drives the ball down the field, gets a first down and 10 at the 14-yard line, and then just a major snafu in clock management. Now, credit where credit's due. Taiyu Uiagalelei with a big sack on a second down play that forced the clock to roll inside 30 seconds. But K-State with a major snafu because they didn't get set at the line of scrimmage. They took too long to snap the ball. And then Avery Johnson, the Kansas State quarterback, runs around in the backfield trying to avoid the pressure and then sees the clock running out and simply just scampers out of bounds without taking a shot to the end zone. No time left on the clock, no field goal attempt for Kansas State, and Arizona goes into half down 14-7. At this point, you're thanking your lucky stars. You're saying, okay, it could have been much worse. We could have had a rough half on the road in Manhattan. That could have been almost disastrous. Don't want to overstate it, but it could have been at least a 2-score game, if not a 3-score game at the end of the first half. And Arizona comes out strong on defense in the second half, gets that 3-and-out, gets the 3-and-out to start. And now I want to pull up the stats, though, because I want to look at these drive charts. Because I think the drive charts were very important after halftime. All right, let's bring it out. Arizona. Let's pull up plays here. Yeah, there we go. Sorry, you're dealing with me doing technology here. Okay. So for Arizona, after getting a 3-and-out from their defense on the opening drive, they take over at their own 29. Okay, great. The penalties are behind you. The terrible offense in the first half, the miscues, the turnovers, the mistakes, they're behind you at that point. So Arizona has a chance to start fresh, 71 yards away from tying this game in the third quarter. And what do? They go 3-and-out. Quali Conley, rush up the middle for 2 yards. Noah Fifita, short pass to the right, complete. Quali Conley, 2 more yards. Pass incomplete. Thrown 20 yards down the field, thrown 15 to 20 yards down the field on 3rd and 6. 3-and-out for Arizona, and there goes all the momentum. Dino Babers, what are you doing? Arizona's offensive coordinator was so strong on his script to start the game, was measured, and it felt like he got more rattled by the penalties than the players did. I didn't see a whole lot of flinch from the players. It was a sellout at K-State, 51,000. That's not an easy stadium to play in, especially because they are known for filling it out on weeknight games, which they have had in previous years in Big 12 play. But the players didn't look rattled. The coaching staff did. The coaching staff looked rattled the whole game. I want to know why delayed handoffs are such an impenetrable part of the playbook. Why the short passing game, when you're not getting anything from receiver blocking and they're not close enough to the interior to get actual tight end blocking or offensive line blocking playing a factor in the screen game, why are you running screens with anybody but Speedy Luke? It is the conservative offense at the wrong time. It's the take the shot offense at the wrong time. And tonight it led to an awful, disastrous offensive performance from Arizona. 7 points with an offense with the best player in the nation in Teteroa McMillan, who did his part. 11 receptions, well over 100 yards again. No touchdowns because Quali Conley was the only touchdown scorer. T-Mac did his part. Noah, for a lot of the night, did his part, mostly just getting the ball to T-Mac. Montana Lamonius Craig had a good game in and of himself. Conley was okay. But where was the play calling? Listen to some of these stats. Arizona in the third quarter, 40 total yards, 3 rush attempts for -1 total yard. 5 of 8 passing for those 41 yards. 2 penalties for 15 yards. 1 of 3 on third downs. 11 total plays. And getting doubled up on time of possession in the third quarter. Make no mistake, the third quarter is where K-State won this game. And credit in the first half to Dino Babers' defense. They played bend, don't break. But the real turning point to me, if you watch the game, was a third quarter, 3rd down and 12. After Owen Goss sacked Avery Johnson, pushed him out of bounds behind the line of scrimmage. Arizona declined a holding penalty, took it to 3rd down and 12. Easy rollout, no contain against Avery Johnson. Contain was an issue all night against the Wildcats' mobile quarterback. No contain there. Avery Johnson completes a 47-yard pass play that actually just traveled 12 yards in the air. Beat Goss on the coverage. Beat guys on the back end. 47 yards. K-State scores a couple plays later. Easy pitch and catch touchdown. And then here was where things got really, really concerning to me. Let's continue this drive chart. So Arizona starts the drive on its own 25-yard line. Down 21-7. 9:23 left to go in the third quarter. And it looked to me, if you watched the game, you might have seen this too. Call me out if I'm wrong on it. But it looked to me like Arizona felt they had already lost this game at that point. I saw a complete lack of resolve, complete lack of discipline, complete lack of hunger, a complete lack of desire to get into a fourth quarter battle, a fourth quarter slugfest against a bigger team that was leaning on them all game, against a more physical team, about a better strength and conditioned team. Arizona wanted no part of that. And down 21-7, this drive showed a lot of that. Fafita, sacked. Okay, safety valve. T-Mac, cool, 9 yards. Crosser mesh over the middle. Montana Lamonius Craig, 20 yards. Okay, they're to midfield. Things are going a little bit better. Even after a first-round sack, they went back to the bread and butter of what worked. One rushing attempt for 2 yards. Quali Conley. We're at the midway point of the third quarter. Okay, 2 touchdown game. Things are going okay. And then Noah, under pressure, again, late pass. Kean Burnett can't hang on to it in double coverage. Another pass rush. Noah goes for Chris Hunter. Nothing doing. Everything that Arizona tried on offense, outside of essentially 3 players, we'll go 4. Noah Fafita, Tedero McMillan, Montana Lamonius Craig, Quali Conley. Nothing doing. That's on Dino Babers. The commitment to the run game was not there. I'll get out of the drive chart here, and we'll go through some other stats. Arizona had 56 rushing yards. 2.9 yards per carry. 2.9 yards per carry. Noah Fafita threw the ball 42 times. Arizona had 16 designed runs. That is nearly a 3-to-1 pass-to-run ratio. And bear in mind, until the midway point of the third quarter, Arizona was not even in catch-up mode. If there was a better game plan, if there was better resolve from this coaching staff, from this team, we could have seen Arizona churn out another one of those 15-play drives. Keep a steady dose of Quali Conley. Keep a steady dose of Kendrick Risano in there, who had a great game last week against NAU. But Babers abandoned the run, abandoned any pass concepts that were more than Noah and T-Mac go save us. The other receivers, sans Montana Lamonius Craig, did not do their job. They made Hunter, Malachi Riley, who got hurt later in the game. We'll get to that later. They made Hunter, Malachi Riley, AJ Jones, Sam Olson, Jeremiah Patterson, complete non-factors. They were complete non-factors in this game. How do you get to that point? You get to that point with an over-reliance on number 4 in game 1 and then punting, essentially, on game 2. I'll get to my overall take on this game in a couple minutes, but it's got to be frustrating as an Arizona fan, even though it doesn't count in the conference standings. But instead of just looking at this game alone, let's look at the body of work. A really unimpressive performance against a New Mexico team in the opener that lost to an FCS team in week 0 in Montana State. Montana State came into Albuquerque and beat the Lobos. And then New Mexico comes and leads most of the first half, or leads some of the first half, I should say, against Arizona, puts up 39 on the Cats defense. Week 2, Cats decide to play it safe with injuries, rest a bunch of starters, throw in a hodgepodge offensive line, and the offensive line was awful. Noah Fafita was running for his life the entire game. And Arizona squeaks out an unimpressive 22-10 win over NAU. NAU. Not even a top caliber FCS team. A program that is in its first year with a new head coach that's only been a head coach at the Division II level. And Arizona did that against NAU. So the signs were there. The signs were there. And then you saw tonight, okay, first drive, things are looking pretty good. Defense looked okay on K-State's first drive, an inch here, an inch there. Maybe a poor spot of the football on a 4th down and 1 sneak. Could be a different ball game. But I think what I've seen that's really concerning over the first 3 games of this Arizona season is I don't know if I see the resolve. I don't know if I see the resolve in this team that they showed last year on that hot streak. I don't know if I see the edge in this team. This team is very well player-led. I think Noah is an exceptional leader. I think T-Mac's an exceptional leader, even though he's not even a captain. I think Jacob Manu, exceptional leader. But leaders are not only judged by what they do on the field and how they vocally fire up their teammates. Leaders are also judged on how their teammates operate when they're not there. You saw a bad offensive line last week when Josh Baker wasn't there. Is Josh Baker inspiring others to lead? Or is he the only glue on the offensive line? Big Jonah swinging to left tackle last week, going back to right tackle last week with Rhino coming back in. How's that hodgepodge hurting the chemistry of Arizona's offensive line? Because they were good on the first drive, but they weren't good tonight throughout the game. Arizona had a very concerning offensive performance all throughout the entire night. And when you put up 7 points on the road, there is no top 15 team in the country, no top 25 team in the country, considering Iowa's out of the top 25 now, that you are going to beat. And to be frank, I've watched a lot of Iowa football over the last few years. You're not beating Iowa with 7 points either. This was a not poorly planned. I want to give them credit. Good game plan. Good offensive game plan, good opening script, good ideas, well established, good defensive game plan, had contained on Avery Johnson fairly well in the first half, did not let the run game beat you for more than a few gashes, played good contain, kept the receivers in front of the defensive backs, made them work their way all the way down the field. I thought the game plan in the first half was good. I thought this coaching staff got entirely outcoached in the second half of this ballgame. And I think we saw a lot of cracks in the foundation that even a player-led team, a team as strongly player-led as this one, needs guidance to not have the major issues that this team had tonight. Penalties, 9 for 74 yards. 9 for 74 yards. Arizona has been penalized 28 times through 3 games. More than 350 yards in penalties. More than 300 yards in penalties does Arizona have. That's not going to win you ball games. That's not going to win you ball games in this conference. It's not going to keep you in ball games against good teams. We saw in the second quarter the offense stall because of drive-killing penalties. And then what did Dino Babers do as the play caller? Instead of saying penalties are penalties, they happen, we're going to stick to what works. He panicked. That was evident to me. I think it was evident to you as the fan. Babers panicked. I saw a lot of panic from that coaching staff tonight. This coaching staff with over a century of experience. I did not see an ironclad hand from Brent Brennan. I want to see a coach with that much experience, that much expertise, that many reps on both sides of the ball as a coach step in and tell his coaches how to freaking coach. Because look, everybody's had bumps in their coaching career. Dwayne Aquino has been fired. Dino Babers has been fired. Danny Gonzalez has been fired. All of these guys have had bumps and bruises in their coaching career. So what do you need to do as the leader? It's more than just putting your arms around the guys and putting your arms around your coaches and saying, it's going to be okay. Show them how to make it okay. Don't accept less than the gold standard. Don't accept 9 penalties. Don't accept giving up 235 rushing yards, including over 110 rushing yards to Avery Johnson, most of them in the second half. Don't accept a group that lays down after going down 28-7 at the end of the third quarter. There was no fight from this team in the fourth quarter. And to make matters worse from a coaching standpoint, I do not support the abysmal decision to when the game is well in hand. I'm going to go through 3 decisions late in the fourth quarter. Number 1, Kansas State lines up on fourth down, up 28-7 in the fourth quarter, up 21 points. They line up on fourth down for a field goal. Arizona is so disorganized that it has to call a timeout to get its special teams right on a chip shot field goal. It's game 3. Get it figured out. The second thing, Arizona did not go hurry up when it got the ball back, down 24. They worked it down the field. They got some good plays. They got some big plays. They even won the time of possession in this game and won it in the fourth quarter as well. Working their way down the field. Where's the hurry up? Where's the urgency? Does this team have organization in 2 minutes? Have Babers and Fafita worked relentlessly on the hurry-up offense, on the catch-up offense? Or has the 9-game win streak just gotten to the heads that they'll never be in this situation? Well, guess what? They were tonight. And then I find this fully unforgivable. The coaching staff down 24 points late in the game, especially after choosing not to go hurry up and going out with a whimper on that offensive drive, on Arizona's second to last offensive drive. They start calling timeouts, down 24 with under 2 minutes left in this game. I get that you want your guys to finish. I get that you want your guys to play all 60 minutes. But you know what? You should have proven that earlier in the fourth quarter when you were getting your teeth kicked in and it felt like you just wanted to get on the first flight back to Tucson. Not with under 2 minutes left in a game that was fully out of reach, in a 3-score game that was fully out of reach. And what happened because of that? What happened because Arizona got the ball back and was trying to push the ball down the field? Potentially a long-term injury for wide receiver Malachi Riley. I find that to be malpractice. I understand all coaching staffs have different ways to motivate their team, different ways to implore their team to finish. 3-score game is technically still in the realm, but understand the moment. Understand that you have more to play for. Understand that you have more to build on. Take the L, take it on the chin, take the 9-game winning streak being snapped, take the 24-point loss, and go home. You saw what was in your wide receiver depth tonight. You saw no depth from the wide receiver room tonight. So don't you think you may need a guy like Malachi Riley moving forward? A standout underclassman? Because guys like Hyatt, Hunter, Patterson just did not produce anything tonight. Not getting anything reception-wise from the tight end position, especially not against these Kansas State linebackers and safeties, this stellar K-State defense. You may need a guy like Malachi Riley. So don't put him in a position to get hurt during a blowout. Don't put Noah Fafita or T-Mac in a position to get hurt during a blowout. That was bad. That was a poor coaching decision. Act like you've been there before, take the loss, and move on. All right. I've had my rants. This was ugly if you're an Arizona fan. Now it's time for optimistic Matt to settle back in. Because if you watch the Bleav in Arizona podcast, if you listen to the Bleav in Arizona podcast, you'll understand that Bleav is not just the name of the company that I work for. It's not just the name of the company that I podcast for. It is my sense of optimism as well. I'm a believer. I Bleav in the U of A's programs, in the U of A's athletic department direction, in the U of A's football team, in the U of A's basketball team, everything around Arizona. I Bleav in Arizona. So, how do we look forward from a 24-point blowout? Well, it's notoriously tough to critically self-scout when you keep winning games. Arizona won 7 straight games to end last season. Obviously, the offseason was not a normal one, with the departure of Jed Fish, the immediate hire of Brent Brennan, bringing in a whole new coaching staff, new staff during spring ball, staff still kind of getting their feet wet during fall camp, everything new, especially with a bunch of new transfers that weren't here in the spring and were here in fall camp. So that's a factor. But how do you look forward from this? You look forward and you see everything you did wrong in the second half of this game. We'll call it the final 3 quarters of this game because Arizona was darn lucky to be only down 14-7 at halftime. Good first quarter. Acceptable scoring drive from K-State on their script in 15 plays in the first quarter. That's an acceptable scoring drive. An offense like this, a team like this, an offensive line like this, a quarterback like this, you will sometimes take those lumps. It happens. That is an acceptable touchdown. Nothing in the final 3 quarters was acceptable from Arizona. Very little. Spot moments here and there. So Arizona now has a bye week, and this is an important reminder, a 0-0 conference record. Say what you want about this game. Say what you want about Arizona's performance in this game. It was nothing more than a measuring stick. The Big 12 may get 2 teams in the playoff, but let's be frank. Arizona did not have the non-conference schedule, save for maybe an 11-1 regular season with a close loss somewhere in there, to make the college football playoff as an at-large team. They didn't. I don't want to spoil anything for you, especially in the first year of the 12-team playoff, because none of us really know how any of this is going to go. But 4 SEC teams are getting in that college football playoff. Probably 4 Big Ten teams are getting in that college football playoff. That's 8. 1 group of 5 representative, that's 9. Your ACC champion, that's 10. Your Big 12 champion, that's 11. So it has to be Arizona over Notre Dame, over a second-place ACC team, over a 5th Big 10 or SEC team. It was a long shot for this team to make the college football playoff as an at-large. But the positive side of that is every single goal that the U of A has this season is still ahead of them. And quite frankly, they have a better chance to make a run in the playoff with a bye anyway. The best case scenario for Arizona as a non-Big 12 champion would probably be, even if they were 12-1 at the end of the season, if they were 12-1 as a non-Big 12 champion, I think the best case for Arizona seeding wise is probably a 9. And it's more likely a 10 or 11. That's just where the Big 12 stands in the pecking order of college football right now. The Big 10 and the SEC are the two power leagues, and they are going to get preferential treatment. They are going to get the most notoriety. And the Big 12, in this new look Big 12, still has, I think the Big 12 is better than the ACC, but the national perception I'm very keen to. And it still feels like the ACC is right here and the Big 12 is right here because there's so much new in the Big 12, and you just don't really know. There's just so much unknown and so much new. So it was going to be a long shot for the Big 12 to get two teams in the playoff regardless. Now, the positives of what this does: gives you a chance to lick your wounds going into the bye week, going into a massive game at Utah in 2 weeks, going into a game against a team that, once again, for what feels like the umpteenth time in the last 3 or 4 years, or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 25, however long Cam Rising has been there, again has quarterback health questions. That's a pretty similar team to the squad that Arizona beat down in Tucson last year. Now it's a question of, is this a good football program that can win outside of momentum? Because the momentum's gone. The magic is gone. It's time to strap up the helmet, push in the buttons on the chin strap, lock in the shoulder pads, and buckle down. Because this is no longer a storybook ride for Arizona. This is now gut check time. How do you spend 2 weeks preparing for your toughest remaining opponent on the schedule, preparing to go into elevation, preparing to play in front of a raucous crowd, probably at night at Utah? How do you prepare for this, knowing you're just coming off a 24-point loss? How do you critically self-scout in the end analysis when you know exactly what your goals are at the end of the season? And you can spend 2 weeks, we'll call it a week and a half, don't stew on it too long, but you can spend 2 weeks looking critically at exactly what you did wrong for 60 minutes in a blowout loss against Kansas State. How do you respond from that? The true measure of a successful team in any sport, in any venue, is not how you play when things are going well. It's how you respond to adversity. And in the micro sense, we saw Arizona struggle mightily to respond to adversity tonight. Now you have 2 weeks to, in a macro sense, respond to the biggest adversity that this program has had in a year and a half. Yeah, because there was enough optimism from those Washington and USC losses last year. This is the worst that Arizona fans have felt since the overtime loss at Mississippi State when the U of A gave the game away. But guess what? This loss, even though it's against a Big 12 foe, and that loss, both non-conference games, both count the exact same way. All the goals are on the table for this team. We know Arizona has an elite quarterback. We know Arizona has the best player in the nation in Tetairoa McMillan. We know Arizona has guys on defense. We also know Arizona's banged up. So it needs this 2 weeks to get healthy, to get right, to get back to feeling like a team that is ready to hit the road and hit the trenches against this Utah team. But now, operationally, the staff has a road game underneath them. This team altogether has a road game of logistics underneath them. No more, where do we go here? What do we do here? What's curfew tonight? What's this? What's our standard for this? It's all second nature now. You're an expert once you do it a second time. They say that with parenting. I don't know. I don't have kids. I'm a long way from that. But they say you're an expert once you do it a second time. So how much, with not having to worry about the logistics, with having 2 weeks of prep against this Utah game, with having all of this bad film to self-scout and weed out, How much does Arizona improve in 2 weeks? If it looks like this, there are some legitimate questions about this coaching staff, about Brent Brennan himself, the head coach, and the staff he's put together. But if it looks a lot better, Arizona's going to have a chance to win that game. I don't know if I would have said that before the season, but right now it looks like K-State's the class of the Big 12. Better in the trenches than everybody else. Oklahoma State looked kind of shaky in that win over Arkansas last week, an Arkansas team with a head coach on the hot seat. K-State looks like the best team in the Big 12. Utah, couple games to get through before they face Arizona. U of A will be a fresher team going to Salt Lake City than the Utes will. So how does Arizona respond? Does Arizona bring the fight on the road to Salt Lake City? Because if it does, this whole season, standings-wise, tiebreakers-wise, everything like that, could be setting up for a rematch against Kansas State in the Big 12 championship game. And if all this breaks that way, this coaching staff, this team, these Wildcats will be much, much better prepared to face the Wildcats again, to face K-State again in a Big 12 championship setting. I believe this team can go to Utah and win. But I don't believe the team I saw tonight can go to Utah and even make it a competitive game. So we'll see what this staff is made of over the next 2 weeks. We'll see what this team's leadership is made of over the next 2 weeks. Because this is gut check time. This, unfortunately, as we head into week 3 of the college football season, this, unfortunately, is the most critical juncture of the year for the Arizona football team. And if they deliver, and if they take a humble, hard look at themselves, improve on the things they need to improve on, and go out there and get a win against Utah, I don't want to overstate it, but this one will be mostly fully forgotten at the end of the day because it is a non-conference game. It's a beating. You take it on the chin. You lose the nation's longest active win streak. But at the end of the day, it's a non-conference game and a measuring stick. Arizona measured about here, pretty low on the measuring stick. But at the end of the day, that's all it was. So, recap, regroup, and get ready for Utah. We'll take a closer look at the film over the weekend, and then on Sunday, we'll have our usual post-game segment, the Sunday six-pack, 2 positives, 2 negatives, and 2 things looking forward as Arizona heads into the bye week, but that'll be our next edition of the Bleav in Arizona podcast. Thanks so much for tuning into the post-game show. Once again, Kansas State, a 31-7 winner over Arizona. Tough one to swallow if you're a red and blue fan, but Bear Down will have better days indeed. And this podcast, once again, want to remind you to please subscribe to the show over on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, or wherever you get your podcasts. And check me out on YouTube at Matt_Reynoldson. Thanks so much for watching our post-game show. We'll see you back here on Sunday. Have a great night and a great weekend.